almost there, Madam Mayor.
1 minute. 1 minute. No, not anymore.
Got the torch first time
You're first, and I'm the last to log in.
There I am.
You look tired.
I'm not in my glory.
And there's Counselor Belts.
Ah,
All right. We are ready to start the recording. I will call to order.
This conference will now be recorded.
Call to order the Tuesday, September 19th, 2023 meeting of the Monmouth City Council and ask Phyllis Bowman, our city recorder, for the roll call, please.
Counselor Belts. Here. Counselor Carey.
Here.
Counselor Lopez.
Present.
Counselor McKeel.
Here.
Counselor Oberst.
Here.
Counselor Salinas Oliveros.
here.
Mayor Coons.
I am present. And Counselor Salinas Oliveros, will you lead us in the flag salute, please?
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I just realized I was in question.
First order of business this evening, the consent calendar, is our minutes from our last meeting, September 5th. Were there any additions or corrections to said minutes?
Move approval.
Thank you, Counselor Oberst.
I'll second it.
And a second from Counselor McKeel. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And I see Counselor Belts, none opposed. So that brings us to public comments. We don't have anyone here in the room to provide comment. Phyllis, did we receive anything by email? I don't see anyone online either.
We did not receive any comments, Mayor Coons.
Thank you. So that brings us to our business agenda. And I would like to, first of all, we get to hear from Wade Carey, our director, our Power and Light Superintendent, is with us because he is the liaison to the tree board. So let's hear about what the tree board's been up to. I think we're getting closer to finally having a whole committee for you, aren't we, Wade?
Yes, can everyone hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you for having me. My report will be brief. So since I took over as Director of Power and Light, we have not had a tree board meeting. And the report I got when I arrived was that for the few months prior to my arrival, there was no real meetings due to a lack of quorum. So the last activity that the advisory board had was a tree planting back in April, I believe. And so with me just coming on and getting my feet wet, there hasn't been a lot of attention given to the board, but I can report that we have our first meeting scheduled for this Thursday. And so we did get a couple new members that were appointed a couple months ago, and everyone has been invited. And so far the attendance looks like it's going to be everyone involved. So it'll be nice to get this thing going and get it kicked off and start making some plans.
Perfect. Yep, got to keep up our tree city, and we get to do our typical Arbor Day activities and those fall tree plantings. And you have a couple of members, I think, who are experienced who can help you through that. So that's great. Counselor Oberst.
And the reality is that summer's a lousy time to plant trees. So the fact that we have not been meeting, Wade, is perfect. Lets the trees get ready to go for this fall. And yes, we have added enough members. We have a quorum, and one of our members is working on someone else. So we may actually be headed towards a full slate at some time in
right.
the future. So wouldn't
Yes,
that be
we'll keep our
exciting?
fingers crossed.
Right.
That's right.
That's it.
Counselor
That's it.
McKeel, former member of the tree board.
And I would just like to provide some historical context. The tree board has not usually met during the summer. So Wade, you are right on track.
Right.
Did it exactly perfectly.
Just how I planned it, right?
Yep, yeah.
All right,
Thank you.
Counselor Carey.
Sort of sticking with the tree theme, Brian Dutton is going to be conducting a Western Oregon University tree tour. And apparently there's a planting going to occur. Must be close enough to the fall for Brian. That will be Friday, the 22nd, and at 11:30 to 12:30, and meeting at the east entrance of the Warner University Center. And Brian did a lot of work on identifying, a tree inventory in the city. And I don't know whether that has been finally completed, but just sort of in the theme of trees, something's going on Friday.
Great.
John, if you could beam that information over, I think I got it all, but send me that and I'll get it out to the rest of the tree board in case anybody wants to
I
go.
will do
Yeah,
that.
that'd be great. Yes, it was very handy having a biology professor who had a student-led activity to inventory every tree in our community. And they had an app for it, a database, and I don't know where that is or if that's been kept up, but that'd be great. Thanks, John. All right, anything else for Wade? All right, thanks, Wade. We will see you again. Hope you have a
Okay,
great
thanks
meeting.
for having me.
And that brings us to our first financial report from Finance Director Susie Marston.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and fellow counselors. Can you
Speaking
put the
to,
mic a little closer?
yeah,
Yes.
just for the onliners to hear.
Okay. I think that's better. Thank you, Madam Mayor and fellow counselors. In your packet this evening, I provided the fourth quarter financial report for fiscal year 22-23. It's important to note that these do serve as the end of the year financial statements, but they are unaudited. Most of the period 13 entries have been made, but we can expect additional entries as the audit wraps up, which should be October, November timeframe. Those entries I would anticipate would have a positive effect on the ending fund balances for all the funds across the city. I would note that overall the city is, the financial position looks very positive is my observation. I just wanted to go through and highlight some of the things. I did keep the same format as you're used to. It may change as we move along, we'll see. Going through the sheet with the green and yellow, again, overall, everything looked positive. Revenues, for the most part, came in at or above budget, while expenditures across the board were below budget, which is good. I did notice that the fine and forfeitures revenue has been on the watch list. I noted that there's actually been an improvement from last year. I kept it as yellow, I think it's important just to keep watching that, but that was a good thing to see. Let's see. Moving on, we'll move on to the graphs on the next page. Indicates that for the most part, as I said, revenues are about the same or higher than last year. We did have increased capital expenditures this year over last year. And, all of us know the City Hall construction, a significant part of that is this year. The police built an evidence storage building, and we had some capital projects in power and light. let's see. So we did have some extra ARPA grant recognition this year, not only in the general fund, but across all funds as projects were expended. That was for the City Hall phone system, Senior Center contactless registration software, the water well project, some MBL projects, or sorry, Monmouth Power and Light projects and so forth, and the trolleys. That was a big thing. I did mention that City Hall construction costs were, well, I didn't say an amount, but $5.5 million. And you'll notice in the general fund, the ending fund balance dropped significantly. We started the year at 4.4 million, and these reports show 1.4 million. So that just indicates that the bond proceeds that were received last fiscal year have been spent down this fiscal year. And in addition to that, I did make the first transfer from the Urban Renewal Fund to support that project of just under $2.6 million. You may have noticed in the sewer, water, and street funds that the capital expenses were lower quite a bit than what was budgeted. That's due to delays in certain projects that were budgeted. Some of those projects are development driven, so the development hasn't taken off like we anticipated. And so there's no sense in expending the money unless there's development. Let's see. Fast forward to the capital projects. I would just note significant projects, City Hall again, trolleys, skate park. The city purchased a back truck, I believe. Those are all indicated in this pie chart. And again, not quite what you're used to seeing, but when we get to the end of the year, there's so many projects that it gets very hard to read. So even for me, so I broke it up a little bit. And then finally, on the investment side of things, I think the biggest story here is the interest rates. The city has really benefited from the higher interest rates out there. Our interest revenue was 38 times that of what the city earned last year.
It's crazy.
So
It's crazy.
as an example, the interest rate in our state pool, LGIP, ended in June 2023 with a rate of 3.88%. We started the year at 1.25%. So
And it's
really-
4.75 now. It's gone.
Yeah, and I just got a message from the pool September 15th, and that rate is now 4.8.
Yeah.
So we'll continue to see that probably into the next year. So I know my predecessor had talked to you guys about opening a safekeeping account to look at investing some funds outside of the pool. I do have my eye on that. I've been meeting with the financial advisor for the city and other members of the financial team, third party, and just getting my feet wet. So I do have my eye on that. But in the meantime, I did learn from Umpqua Bank that we could open a public money market account and earn 0.25% more than what's in LGIP. So we did open that account, and I do plan to transfer funds out of LGIP. So as an example, I mentioned that the interest rate in LGIP is 4.8. We would be earning slightly over 5% in this money market. So I thought it would be good to capitalize on that until I can get the safekeeping going. So that's going to conclude my report. I'm open to questions, and I also just wanted to mention that I do appreciate questions ahead of time, so I hope you feel comfortable in contacting me ahead of time and asking me whatever you'd like.
Yeah, good to have that money market account as we're starting to look at property tax revenue coming in too. Maybe a place to park some of that at the little bit higher interest rate as that comes in, which was the email I was going to send you in
Oh.
response to your email I never answered. So there you go.
Okay.
Questions of Susie? Yes, Councillor Lopez.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And thank you very much, Susie, for the thorough report. It's wonderful to have an opportunity to get to know you a little bit and see your work. I have two questions. For the first question, I'm going to, and my apologies for not submitting these in advance.
It's okay.
For the first question, I'm going to bring us back up to page 12 and looking at the expenditures by category. So this is the the graphic at the bottom of page 12. Page 12 of our packets, not of this report. In that expenditures by category, you mentioned the discrepancies year over year in the capital outlay, largely due to the construction of the new city hall. I'm also noticing that there's a small gap in other, or not gap, but increase in other line items there, most notably the materials and services. Is that section impacted by City Hall building as well, or what's driving that?
I would say what's driving that is the inflationary pressures that we've been in the last year. I think that could fairly describe that difference.
Gotcha. So in another sense, I could kind of read that as being, well, this is the flip side of the coin of those wonderful interest rates we're enjoying.
Right. Yes.
Gotcha. Thank you. My next question, speaking of those interest rates, I'm going to bring us back down to page 26 of the packet, looking at that investment report. And the very first thing that I think of when I think of increased opportunity is also increased risk. I know that our opportunity 0.25% is significant but not huge, but it does bear asking, does moving funds into this account expose us to risk that we would not have experienced in the LGIP account?
Yeah, thank you for the question. That's actually something that I did think about and consider, and reached out to CEAS and also talked with our financial advisor on that. No risk. It's federally insured, FDIC insured, and then also is in line with the public state regulations. So the council can feel good about having money in that account.
Great, thank you. That's what I anticipated you would say,
Okay.
and I appreciate the reassurance.
The state treasury actually posts a list of depositories that public entities can use.
Huh.
So, and basically the state treasury is saying, if you've got your money in one of these on our list, then, you're sort of covered. You should be in good shape. So if there are any banks that the treasury has determined really are potentially risky, then they take them off that list.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Yep.
Thank you. Checks and balances everywhere.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you.
That concludes my questions. Thank you very much.
All right. Oh, Councillor Carey.
In the, back up to your chart with the yellows and the greens, under franchise fees, you note that the right-of-way revenue was 89% of budget, fine. Anticipate audit accruals and entries resulting in revenue exceeding budget due to higher underlying utility revenues. What would that be? I'm glad to hear it. I just didn't know what it was.
Let's see. So I'm a little embarrassed to say I'd have to go back and look at that. That might have been something that I carried forward from the previous report.
Mhm.
So let me find out what that means, and could I get back to you on that?
Sure. And that's one of those that I wish I would have gotten to you earlier. But it sounds like it's a leveling amount, which is good. And with a 10% or 11% below budget, on those, you'd think that the franchise fees would be pretty static, but anyway, that'd be fine.
Okay.
And it's not an urgent matter
Okay.
by any means. And then you alluded to this, but we run into this often, and if I can get my scroll down. If we look at Fund 11, which is the sewer fund, we were at 103% of the revenue that we generated there, and the 47, but only expended 47% of budget. Same thing, and you mentioned it, and we talked about it beforehand in the street fund. I'm always, and I think we're all appreciative of the fact that some things we can budget for and anticipate, especially, and Russ is one who's very good at all that he does, but sometimes will bite off a little more than he can chew. And in what we're dealing, the environment we're in right now, sometimes you just can't get what you need to do the job. And then your reference to the development-driven projects is right on as well. But as we develop our expenditure budgets, and then don't spend them, we can be accused of padding that, because our expenditures often drive rate increases or are part of what drives a rate increase. And rate increases are important, and we need to have them. But we just need to be careful how those, I'm really talking more to, well, all of us, I guess, that we need to be cautious how we do that, and then have a good explanation, as you did. And we're thoughtful enough to ask Russ, what's the deal with this? And he had the example that you provided. But, it's just in terms of our oversight role and our due diligence, we need to keep an eye on how we budget those expenditures and what's real and what's not. And there's nothing wrong with something going into a contingency for future use as we build the budget. I didn't no reason to talk about the street fund, because that's the same deal. But anyway, thank you. Good report. And thanks for your invitation for questions in advance.
Yeah, I
Appreciate that.
truly do appreciate those. So,
Yeah.
Okay.
Counselor Belts or anyone else? All right. Thank you so much, Susie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Look out for it. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we have, hope you all got the added agenda item this evening. We are applying for another one of the technical assistance grants that have been so incredibly helpful to us to get some of our major work done. And Suzanne, thank you for running over from the welcome
All right, kind of
event
serve-
for WU students. We're doing a heck of a great job over there. So
Fun event for sure, welcoming the students to town. But good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. Suzanne Duffner, Community Economic Development Director for the City of Monmouth, here to present the staff report for a request to submit a grant to Department of Land Conservation Development's Technical Assistance Grant Program. This is a program that they run on a biennium, get my correct timeframes here, every 2-year basis. They help cities complete needed planning updates to their comprehensive plan and updates to their code. They like to fund projects that are consistent with their priorities that they outline in each biennium. This particular cycle, they're focused on economic development because they kind of already had the housing pot of money and grant cycle that we applied for earlier. So this pot of money in this grant program is really focused on promoting economic development as the highest priority. But they do have a list of 5 of them that I included in the staff report that are also priorities as well. So in alignment with that, staff is proposing that we submit a grant proposal to update our economics element of our comprehensive plan. Our comprehensive plan, as you'll recall, is our 20-year plan for growth and development. We've been great about updating the housing part of our plan and doing the strategy for that. That was done in 2019. But the one that's in the most need of that is our economics element that was last updated in 2007. So that's 16 years ago. Yep. And my time flies, right? I know it's been on my list of things that we need to do. We did do our 5-year economic development strategy in 2021 to kind of do some visioning around that. And that strategy actually identified updating our comprehensive plan as one of the needed tasks to help implement our economic goals. So this is really timely that this is also a priority with the state funding, grant funding. So what is an economics element? So broadly speaking, I mentioned it was our 20-year plan for growth and development for economic opportunities within the city. So it's going through this analysis on what are our economic development goals and policies, our vision for the future for job opportunities in Monmouth, and then how much land do we need in the next 20 years to meet those needs. So we're looking at commercial, industrial, could be some institutional property as well, because we know their jobs on Western Oregon University campus is our largest employer. So yeah, we know this is a critical need in our planning process to get in and do this. And so it's great, again, that there's an alignment there with the state's grant priorities. The proposal would include, or the grant funding would be used to hire a consultant, which we normally do, to get the technical expertise to do these planning efforts. It's very state prescriptive on the steps that we have to go through to do that land analysis. And then of course we weigh in a lot with our local goals and getting public feedback and feedback from interested stakeholders. So that will be part of that planning process, like we normally, would go through various input activities like surveys and open houses and stakeholder focus group meetings. So, and then one of the components that we're trying to weave in that would make it a little bit more unique than the standard cookbook economic opportunities analysis is looking at our land inventory around Ash Creek, because we know the city public works and planning know that we have some errors in our mapping in those FEMA flood insurance maps that are making it difficult to develop on some of the industrial land on the north side around the creek. So it's overestimating how much land we believe is in the floodplain. So we're proposing to carve out some specific tasks in this grant proposal that would hire the hydraulic engineers to be able to model some of that and potentially update our FEMA maps. So we've reached out to the Ash Creek Water Control District, and they're very supportive of that as a partnership. So we're also looking to them to get a letter of support to again try to more accurately map where we have opportunities for future employment. So our city portion of it would be to provide in-kind funds through staff support, setting up the meetings, doing the notices, the copies, reviewing the documents, pulling together the stakeholders. So pretty standard in terms of what we go through in the planning process. We may need to, we're still getting finalized numbers. I wish I could tell you it's going to cost exactly this much, but we're seriously putting this together by the October deadline. And so we're going to reach out to several engineering firms and also planning firms to get more firm estimates. We know the EOA is probably somewhere around $20,000 to $30,000 to do those. And then of course the engineering for the flood studies will add to that depending on how much of a reach of a stream. We're trying to narrow that down a little bit of where we're studying. So there may be a play there for some urban renewal funds, because we do budget urban renewal for plan studies where it's in the urban renewal area and needed if it's serving as a barrier to that growth and development. So I mentioned that under the fiscal implications. One of the items in these grant applications, they do ask for either a resolution or a letter of support from the city so that they know this is something that the council supports as well. It's not just city staff putting in an application that we think is important. So that's where I'm here before you tonight. And I think that's mostly what I had to share in a nutshell, but I'm sure if you have questions, feel free to ask those of me and I'll answer those the best I can.
Questions?
I don't have a question, but I'd like to make a motion.
Oh.
Namely, I'd like to move to direct staff to submit a grant to DLCD to complete an economic opportunity analysis and direct the mayor to sign the attached letter of support.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to support this grant application and force me to sign a letter. Counselor Carey, you have a question?
The, just really supportive of this, and you hit it right on the head. We've been spending all of our time on the residential piece, which has been essential, and we still have more work to do. But this is really timely and really needed. In the background statement in your report there, the staff report, you talk about that our activities would need to be sort of in line with the 5 priorities that they have. Is that all 5, or is that some of the 5? And how do those all relate?
yeah,
They
that's a
seem to
great-
Be pretty disparate.
Yeah. No, that's a great question. You just have to meet one of those priorities really strongly. I think if you can make a connection with multiple ones, then it can help you as well. And so by including the floodplain mapping, I think we are hitting on that number 2, plan for resilience to natural hazards and climate change as well. So we plan to weave that into our narrative as well. So yeah, thank you for that clarification. But you do not need to address all 5
Okay.
in your grant application.
I think the balance should be struck to maximize and develop synergy between a couple of these, but not so much integration that it becomes diluted.
Right.
You know, that's the
Right.
thing. And there was a term in there that I think I was able to intuit, but employment land.
Yeah. What does that mean?
Yeah.
So that's going to be.
Intrigued with it.
Yeah. So it's land that offers employment, simply speaking. Sorry. No. So
The term to define it.
commonly, no, right. That's not a good definition, is it? Where you use the word in there. It is our commercial and industrial lands, but it can also be the institutional, the public, because we have jobs on there. So thinking about it in terms of where are the lands where that are used for businesses and economic development. So yeah, and I mean, there's always the question of what you do for mixed use and how you count that. And so you make some assumptions, right? Because mixed use has some of that commercial and residential on it. So, but yeah, it's a little bit of a wonky planning term.
Really important because we need that.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think we'd all agree.
Try not to be a bedroom community then.
Yeah,
you need to balance that.
Lacking a
Mhm.
bit. One of the things that I hope we can do with this one is to make sure that this is as locally driven as we can make it. I think a number of us had had some concerns about sort of the overreach on the previous project that we went through. It ended up great, but in terms of local control, there was some heartburn on that one.
Yeah.
But I think we've learned from that, and we can make sure that we can balance between the expertise of the expert and the interests of the elected officials and the community.
Yeah.
Anyway, great deal. Really looking forward to getting this one going personally.
Absolutely. And I agree that that's a more powerful plan as well, in terms of it likely to get implemented if it is more locally driven and not just a standard cookbook planning exercise. And so, where we need the policymakers to be involved in that is to really help at the beginning to set the overarching goals and policies of how aspirational do we want to be? Are we happy with commercial, or, Monmouth typically hasn't had much industrial lands or industrial developments, and those bring with it different impacts. And so, those are some tough questions sometimes to answer, right? Do you just keep the status quo, or are we going to turn the ship on the Titanic a little bit and say, we want to have, more jobs so people don't have to drive to Salem, to Corvallis, to McMinnville, Portland for that employment. So, and that will drive how much land that you need. So I think, with your help as the policymakers, the Planning Commission, getting, our key folks in the community involved as well, and really understanding what those aspirations are for growth will be, that's where we get the chance to make this our local plan. There's certain steps we have to follow that are prescribed by statutes and rules, but we get to set our overarching economic development goals. So thank you.
Counselor Belts or anyone else? All right, all in favor of the motion to complete this application, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Seeing none opposed, we'll go forward because, you didn't have anything to do.
Yeah.
So we have good stuff. We've got Carter and we've got Laura helping us out. So
And we have Laura and we have our rare.
yeah, they're working and I'm gonna go help them clean up. So sorry I won't be here for the rest of your meeting. But
Oh, thank you.
All right, thanks. I will, we'll move on to our reports, and it's been a busy couple weeks, and especially because we have let you all know that we will be canceling our meeting on Tuesday the 3rd. There's a lot of stuff coming up right after that too. So thank you for those of you who were able to attend the SEDCOR, our regional economic development entity, and their awards ceremony that was held last week. It was very nice to see a lot of Polk County representation there, but it was a particular honor to be able to stand up and receive a special award for community leadership, and that was given to the cities of Monmouth and Independence, and recognizing the SEDCOR folks, recognizing the not just the work we've always done, but really our intentional and deep collaboration on a number of projects and very visible things, but really in general, just presenting United Front to our not only to help our residents primarily, but to really become more of a force in the region. So that was a lovely honor, and appreciate all the work that goes into that.
Yeah, congratulations on
Yes.
that.
Good job. That's great.
And Madam Mayor, I would just like to express my amazement with how close the two cities have become over the last few years with you driving the bus, shall we say. I think that's had a lot to do with it. It hasn't, well, the two cities have not always been as close as they are right now. And I put a lot of the credit into your efforts. And, thanks a lot.
You're here.
It really, it has always bothered me that these two communities don't work harder together for each other, and seeing the way it's going now is really quite good. The notion of we came up with 20 years ago of two cities, one community, it starts to really feel that way more now. So yeah, well done.
And we just do a better job of promoting ourselves and putting ourselves up for awards, you know.
And I apologize for not being there. I had a pre-scheduled concrete
Okay. Well, yeah, it was nice. Again, there were a couple other Polk County businesses that were recognized. So being in the Marion Polk Yamhill Collaborative, sometimes we get a little overlooked, and that was not the case this time. I guess it helps that the chair of the SEDCOR's board is Kate Schwarzler. So I think we got some extra attention, but thank you for those of you who are there. And then also busy week, we had a visit from our regional representative from the Regional Solutions team. Regional Solutions is a group of people out of the governor's office who represent, in our case, Marion, Polk, Yamhill County. And their job really is to figure out what things in the state are getting in the way of local communities, of businesses, of organizations, of the work that needs to get done, and how can they help facilitate that. So our regional solutions coordinator, we had a great one that I think we all met in years past. Jody Christensen was the regional solutions coordinator in the past. She spoke to us here when we did an economic development council retreat. And when she stepped down, and there was a change in the administration, we were fortunate enough to get as our regional solutions coordinator Beth Wojtowski. Beth is is a recovering educator from the Dayton School District and mayor of Dayton and president of the Oregon Mayors Association previously. So we are really fortunate to have her. Suzanne and Russ and I got to jump in the Suburban and drive around town and show her what's going on here. Marty helped us really come up with a great list of projects that we might need help with from the state, and a presentation. So we had a really good chance to talk to her about our values, our goals, how those align with the governor's office and the governor's goals, and what other things we might need. And so it was really nice, and being able to drive around and show somebody, she felt that was extremely helpful, even though she's familiar with our community. So we got a great list, and probably should send that out forward to all of you, what that list looked like and the sort of things we came up with. And some of them we know about, some of them were not even as familiar to me. But really good projects and things we can continue to work for and advocate for. So that was great. This Friday is President Jesse Peters is doing his welcome and his address on the state, sort of the state of WU. And that is open to the public at 3:00 p.m. at Rice Auditorium, followed by a reception. And that's kind of kicking off again today. It was so cool over in the park having the new students here, and Western has put a huge emphasis on return to in-person learning and in-person care and connection for students. So hopefully we'll feel that in the community. And Marty was dishing out lasagna as fast as she could, and really seemed like some good energy from our students there and the local businesses and organizations who were over at the park to sort of greet them, and a DJ that got them all dancing. So that was cool. We have coming up also on the 28th, I think everyone's been invited to the Council of Governments Legislative Coffee. And if you, I think there might still be taking reservations for that. That will be held in downtown Salem at the Chemeketa Center for Business and Industry, and was very valuable last year, getting not only our local legislators from around the valley, again, the Council of Governments, Marion, Polk, Yamhill, but we also had federal legislators there. And so a good opportunity just to have meet and greet, literally just have coffee with them and chat about our priorities and things we're looking at. So if you have somewhere in your email an invitation to that, and I recommend that. Also that weekend, we should have Man It Day coming back. Our friends from the Marshallese American Network interacting together, and I haven't gotten a lot of details about that yet, but that should be coming up unless Phyllis has more information on that. I know this year they are also doing some activities down in Albany. That they reserved the park, and that's kind of all we know. So,
What date is that again?
well, they were, I think they reserved the 29th and 30th of September. So coming right up next week. And then History and Mystery on October 6th, which some of us are involved in, and that should be another really fun time. That's kind of a another cool event we have going on in downtown on the evening of the 6th. And then on October 10th is the AARP Age Friendly Cities Summit. And in speaking to the executive director of AARP Oregon, they are looking around a couple hundred people attending at Western Oregon University. It is open to the public. And really, they are looking at focusing on a couple of the domains of age-friendly cities. But at lunchtime that day, Monmouth and Independence will be receiving a certificate recognizing us as starting our journey on the age-friendly cities. We passed a resolution. Barbara Cronin has submitted some other materials, and so we're going to be recognized at that. So that will also be a cool day. And then they have some other activities the next day here in town. Do you have information to share about that?
I have that information. I made it part of Friday Notes. On the next day, October 11th is Community Day. So I probably won't be able to recount. There are a variety of activities going on throughout the day that don't require registration, but I think that there's going to be tours of some of our third places that all ages can enjoy, and I can resend that.
Yeah.
I mean, the idea of the Community Day is really to highlight and showcase the local opportunities for how we're going to be making that connection as an age-friendly community. We have some local speakers and a documentary film, and anyway,
there's several things. And Councillor Belts will be on a panel talking about important things for age-friendly cities to consider. So thank you, Councillor Belts, for representing us on that panel on the 10th. That's a lot going on. We're busy. And I think we have some other events to talk about. Before we get to our reports of boards and commissions, we have set this Friday as a deadline for applicants to the Budget Committee. So if you have folks you've been speaking to about that opportunity and we kind of pushed it out there, let's go ahead and remind them that we will be considering those applications, and I'll be gathering a couple of us to review those and see who we've got. So Susie can start planning her orientations and how we're gonna educate them up this year. So that's what I got.
Question.
Yes.
So the AARP Summit, that one you have to register for.
Yes.
Do you have to register for the whole summit? Do you know? I'm trying to balance like work and other workshops with possibly maybe going to, maybe one or two of these, either the 10th or 11th. But so it'd be good if we had a schedule or if we knew like what was happening when and if we have to register.
Yeah. So the 11th is not a registration.
That one I can just pick and choose which one.
And the 10th, the registration is available. That day, the summit goes from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. But obviously, there'll be breakouts and things throughout the day. So you would be able to pick and choose potentially that day if you wanted to attend.
Yeah, I'm going to try to balance some of that with work, but yes, okay, I appreciate that.
Yes.
Thank you.
And again, attending as a representative of City Council, then Phyllis can assist in paying for registration fees.
I can send out the registration link again for the 10th.
Sure.
So
Okay.
there's both a conference page where you can, I think you're registering for the whole day on the 10th, but you can obviously, if you
And
have.
then the 11th is just open to whatever.
Yep. Yeah. All right. Reports of boards and commissions. Oh, so exciting. I'm going to let Councillor Oberst go and then
ahead.
Councillor Salinas Oliveros.
I've heard a rumor that there's a tree board meeting this Thursday.
We've heard.
Yeah, this will be our first meeting for a couple of members, and we'll see where we're going from here. And then we were due for a traffic safety meeting on the first Monday of the month, which happened to be a holiday. And so we postponed it to the 25th, and Russ decided to go on vacation. So it's now moved to October 9th at the police station at 7:30. And one of the items on the agenda will be giving the current commission members an opportunity to look at my scribblings about the Transportation Commission. I spoke with Lane on the way in, and if they are on board with that, he gets it next.
Great.
So
Thank you.
just where we are on that. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. So first, we had a early Arts and Culture Commission meeting last Thursday, and we had the honor of having Mayor Coons come and talk to us and kind of helped us to really brainstorm and really try to focus more on the public art for the City Hall and how do we want to do that. And so there were some really great ideas that came up. There was idea of possible rail type system that can, because we don't have funding. So we will be looking at that as well. You know, maybe looking to loan some local art or showcase some of the art that we already have upstairs and downstairs. So we're kind of investigating that. And then we thought about, where's our focus going to be? Do we want to raise money for an outside type of public art and then raise money for the inside? So we're trying to figure that piece out since there isn't a budget. But I think we have some really great options, and there was a really good discussion for ideas, and that's going to continue. So so keep your eyes out for the art that will be coming up, hopefully soon, for the City Hall. And then remember the save the date, November 7th from 12 to 1. And we have a guest speaker, Randy Cohen, to discuss results of the Arts and Economic Prosperity Survey. So please, it's going to be at the Monmouth Public Library. If you can make it, that would be great. We are one, I think, of 7 stops that he's making in Oregon. And so he's very timely. We have to be very timely. And so, but I think this is the first time that he has come to Monmouth. So, so that's exciting. We also have an artist talk coming up on Saturday, October 7th. And it's at 2:00 in the library. It's Dr. Barbara Sellers Young, and she's going to be talking about artists and sustainability in the land of Eden. I have a, can you see my, am I on camera? Nope. Here. Yeah. So the flyers, I can pass it around. So, yeah. So there's going to be, that will be really exciting. And I think, and this is a collaboration with the library, and it's something that I don't think we've had before. And then there's going to be another collaboration with the library coming up in January with an art show. We're thinking about like a tiny art show. So we'll see how that, you know, to include the community in that as well. So a lot of really good things coming up. Some good work that's going on there. We are in Hispanic Heritage Month. So please, please take the time to, you know, read, watch movies, talk about it, have good conversations. There's so much out there. My daughter was really excited coming home from school and saying, "Mom, guess what? We just talked about Hispanic Heritage Month," and that it was part of what was happening for all students, and they were talking about it, and so it was really exciting. She was really happy about that as well. And I do want to thank the city staff who put up the street pole banners for Hispanic Heritage Month, and for Western, who've put up the banners, who've always just so great and gracious with their time, and just so nice about, I mean, it's effortless for us to ask, but not for them. So I do want to thank them for their work. Oh, and the kids' art is up downtown. So elementary school teachers with authors, some Latino authors. So please walk downtown and look at the children's art. That's always fun. And then we're also getting ready for Dia de los Muertos. October is right around the corner, and it will be a collaboration with the Senior Center where Dia de los Muertos and October and Halloween will be celebrated. Last year they had about 200 kids come by, and they learned about Dia de los Muertos. They did crafts. They participated in the ofrenda. And it was a really great, just a really great gathering and learning opportunity. So we're going to do that again. And I want to thank counselor here who really has helped out so much with that and their connections with the community, with the teachers. I really appreciate that work. So that's coming up. Is there anything else that I'm missing? I don't know. I can't read my handwriting, so there's probably a lot that I'm missing right now. But that's all I can read. So
That's a lot. I said it's a crazy busy time.
it's a very busy time.
Counselor Carey.
Planning Commission met last week and had an agenda item that, the approved design review of some industrial buildings down in the Rosemead industrial area. I did not attend that because, should it be appealed, and however it worked out, I don't know, but should it be appealed, it would come to us and that would be that ex parte contact that I had concern about last. They're in good hands, so they certainly don't need me. That's for sure. Anyway, so hopefully we just hear about, developments beginning and we don't hear about any problems, but we'll see.
That's exciting.
Counselor Belts.
Thank you. I never know if you can see me or not. So listen, the good news is I had a long list of things to talk about and the mayor addressed 85% of them. So one of the things I did want to mention, I was at the Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments the board meeting today. We did talk about the legislative gathering. There are still spots available. 70 people though have signed up. So it is pretty significant. Basically what it is they get 40 governments in Marion, Polk, and Yamhill County. They invite all local government representatives along with their administrators to join state and federal delegates for informal conversations. It is 7 a.m. to 8:15 at CCBI. So I think Councilor Salinas Oliveros, since that's part of Chemeketa, maybe you can wangle away to say, well, I need to be there for that.
Maybe. Yeah, I'll have to see if I can use that.
And then, of course, we have History and Mystery on the 6th. I will be a ghost host. Ghost Walk, the 7th, I will be a different ghost host. The AARP Age Friendly Summit, again, the 10th and the 11th. And then the one thing that was not mentioned was League of Oregon Cities conference down in Eugene is October 12th, 13th, 14th. And so I will be attending that. I'm not sure who else. I think Councilor Lopez, perhaps you said you were attending. Yes. Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. And so I'm heavily involved with the Women's Caucus with the League. And Councilor Lopez, of course, is involved with the People of Color Caucus. So that is everything. Thank you.
Counselor McKeel.
So the library meeting didn't take place this month. We had to cancel it. However, there are a couple great things happening in the library coming up. September 23rd in the afternoon, put your garden to bed. So as you prepare for, it's not coming, it is winter.
Yeah.
You can come and the OSU Extension will be there to talk about how to take care of your plants for this coming winter. Or you can do it like mine and you just take the lawnmower and just get rid of them that way. Hope for the best in the spring. Also, October 12th at 6:30 p.m. Can we all get along, or can we get along? By the Oregon Humanities Conversation. They're going to have a conversation about that examine individual questions on race, cultural values, and what brings us together. On October 17th, there's a movie matinee at 2 p.m. Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. And so it's the Judy Blume's movie about Judy Blume. Light snacks will be included. So, and then October 19th, put this on your recurring calendar, 1 p.m. It's the third Thursday book club. So I didn't know there was a book club. So come on out to the book club. The next library meeting will be, they're always the second Wednesday of the month at 7 o'clock. And Chris always has donuts. So that's what gets me out of bed in the morning.
There you go. All right. Yes, Counselor Lopez.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. One or two brief additions and corrections. I would like to encourage everyone and join in encouraging everyone to attend the History and Mystery. Few years running now, and really excited to see that continuing to move forward for our community. Each year it gets exponentially bigger and better attended, and so really looking forward to what this year will hold. I too will be one of the speakers for that event, and then I do believe there is still a short window to register for the League of Oregon Cities Conference if you haven't yet. All the best hotels fill up rather rapidly, so do make certain to reach out quickly if you'd like to join Councillor Beltz and I at that event. All right, a couple
We'll
others.
be there.
One other thing of note, Councillor Beltz, I'm not certain if, and I haven't really shared this that much in this forum, but I'm actually an ex officio board member of the League of Oregon Cities by way of my involvement with the People of Color Caucus. So I very much look forward to all of you there. And Councilor Robles, I guarantee you the programming will be worth it.
Okay.
On that note, I think that everything else was covered, and I appreciate working alongside of all of you. It always amazes me how much is accomplished.
Yeah, I will. I'll do it in council comments.
Okay.
Go ahead. Do your report, though.
Thank you. Thank you, Council, for covering 99% of everything that I was going to cover, because all of your liaison reports, you're learning about all the great programs and events.
We need to put you first one of these times, so you have an actual report
You
to
know
give.
how long my list would be, right? I'm excited about some of the programs at the Senior Center and the library and events that they have going on are just really exciting. There's a lot happening, which is great. And so I only have two things to report, or three things to report. One, most of you know that our department heads, our management team meets on the Monday before our council meetings. And one of the things that we had this week on our management team agenda was a discussion that Wade Carey briefed us about regarding our regional power supply. And it was a very interesting perspective about the availability of different power supply options into the future. And I asked him if he would come and do a work session so that you could all, it'll have implications obviously for our rates going into the future, and also just an understanding of sort of what's happening right now. So just sharing that with you, it was we realized that it was time to start a conversation with you all to, if you're not already paying attention, for a look ahead about what's going on with our regional power supply, not just as it relates to Bonneville, but other sources as well. Two other news or celebrations, they're staff related. One I included in Friday notes last Friday. We had one of our officers, Tyler Combs, who has graduated from DPSST, the training academy. And so he's going to be starting his field training opportunities here now, which is great. We're very happy for him to be back from the academy, and proud that he came in second academically in his class, which was terrific. We've got our new officers are really, they're just doing great. So we're glad Tyler's rejoined the Monmouth PD, and he'll be out working with our officers field training. And then finally, we're going to be glad to welcome a new team member, our assistant city manager, to the team on October 9th. Kevin Perkins is the person who we've offered the job to, and he has accepted. Kevin is coming to us most recently. He's the assistant city administrator at the city of Lafayette. He also has past experience with Benton County, with city of Monroe as an interim city administrator. He also worked in court operations for the Oregon Judicial Department. So you'll remember that we created this assistant city manager position to address a variety of different functions to help, I don't want to call them, maybe I'll call it systematized and not centralized, some of our services, human resources, care of our facilities, and fleet services. And so we're excited to have Kevin joining us. So you'll start hearing his name, and he joins us on the 9th of October.
Great.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so I think that's all I've got to report.
All right. Well, except we are still looking at being able to send out invitations soon to a dedication of our city hall. There won't be furniture and people in it quite yet,
There might be furniture, but we will not have moved in and started working at that point.
but hopefully before the 2-year mark of when they moved out, Thanksgiving weekend, they'll even be in there, maybe. Yeah. So one thing I wanted to let you know, I know we've talked a little bit about not only about the art and really about how we are going to dedicate this building. And so Marty's been checking those brass plaques that we have on all of our public facilities, a pretty common practice in public entities, talking about dedicating, the buildings to the people of the community. And I want to let you know that Marty and I are working on that, and we our hope is to we'll find the money. Like I said, this plaque actually we want to dedicate to our residents and the people of Monmouth, and in support of our values. So the plaque will actually have our stated city values on the plaque as well. So it'll be that permanent thing that's right there by the door. And it's one way. Obviously, we want to live those values in that building, our sustainability, our community engagement, and our certainly diversity, equity, inclusion, but also access.
Yes.
Which we all recall was really one of the selling points we had for the buildings. So that will be part of that. I don't know what they're called, but whatever that plaque is called that every building has. The plaque, our plaque will actually be expanded a little bit. Just
Great.
Good.
Great.
And so she's getting that ordered. Yeah. So exciting.
I will be scheduled. I'll schedule another update about what's going on with the project soon. I guess that'll be for the October meeting. I know it's been a little while since I've provided the council an update. So our staff was able to do a walkthrough. I do a walkthrough of the building at least twice a week with our project team, but our staff who will be working in the building walked through on Thursdays so they could get a sense of what the working spaces would be looking like. And so there's still a lot that needs to be done for the building to be ready, and a lot having to do with systems. So electrical, our switchgear arrived on schedule as planned, which is very good. And plumbing and mechanical systems being built that's part of what's underway inside the building right now. More updates soon.
Wonderful.
Councillor Belts.
Do we have a projected first council meeting there? A date?
First meeting.
No, we'll wait.
January?
Oh, it'll be before January.
Okay, good to know.
It could be December. I'm going to be
That would be before January. That'd be your last opportunity.
That would be our last effort. Well, it could be November too, but yeah, okay.
It is possible it could be November if all the systems, even the ones I just talked about, are in place and functional, then that's a possibility. I don't want to make any promises. I wouldn't
I
want
just wanted a guesstimate. Thanks.
Sure.
Any other announcements or council comments?
So the Saturday of the weekend of the LOC happens to be an annular eclipse. The sun will rise partially eclipsed. This is the case where the moon is a little farther away from the earth than normal. So the ring of fire is how it's sometimes referred to. I've noticed Bimart has glasses available. You'll need those if you want to look. And it will not be quite as good here as the last eclipse we had. You need to be a little farther south. Eugene would be good. It is in October. And so the recommended place apparently is Medford.
Actually, I was reading today about Crater Lake.
Yeah.
That as long as it doesn't snow and
Right.
Crater Lake is open, they are anticipating thousands of people to be at Crater.
And then the other thing I wanted to mention is we have noticed that it's dark out already. close to it, and it's only 8 o'clock and only 7:40. And so winter is upon us, as you know, Councilor McKeel. That means we'll be spending more time inside. That means that things like viruses are easier to pass around. And we have coming up, and I speak as the designated molecular biologist on council, we have available 2 vaccines now, one for the flu, one for RSV, both of which have bad impacts on old folks like me. And so I would urge people to look into those 2 vaccines. I understand it's best to have them separated in time. Any day now, we should see the newest version of the COVID-19 vaccine available. You can get that one with the flu at the same time. So when it becomes available, maybe as early as later this week, early next week, I would urge, again, speaking from a biological point of view, I would urge everybody to get as many of those 3 shots as you think you would like to have.
Nice to have a science expert on the council. Thank you.
Yes, and Counselor Carey.
I'm getting mine on Friday.
Yes.
Good for you.
So the COVID. I did my, and I didn't do it at the usual time in terms of the juxtaposition to the start of school, but I was up and observed the outbound student traffic at Monmouth Elementary. And, you know, that's a bone of contention that we hear about often. And, you know, I can't understate the level of organization that goes on there, the level of consideration that the drivers have. They're all in it together. They're all picking children up, and in this case, in the afternoon. So it worked very well. There's a couple things relative to crossing guards that that we could have a discussion about, but generally it was quite good. One of the things that and I've talked with Councilor Oberst about this, and I'm hoping that I can convince him to bring it up at the traffic safety.
You don't have to convince me. You can send a note to Chief. Don't
Okay.
yourself.
About the consideration of putting some yellow no parking strips on Church Street around each of the intersections. There's a lot of people that pick up their kids and they park right on the edge of the like, for example, Craven and Church. And if kids are walking along there, they're blocked really by someone parking right adjacent to that deal. It's not anybody's front yard. So to take a couple of parking spaces might not be too bad, and it might improve the safe routes to school.
Sight lines there are
Sight-
a real problem.
Yeah, they are, and the entire neighborhood gets a lot of traffic, and also a consideration of ramping up enforcement efforts on how long vehicles can be parked there. I'm surprised, and maybe you do. There's a particular trailer that is legal, I'm sure, but really creates a difficulty for bus drivers driving east on Church Street, on that first street. So just in the interest of safety, and I'll do that. I'll send one to Chief, just for the consideration. It may not be possible, may violate all kinds of codes and transportation plans and everything else, but I think it's an idea that's worth having considered, just to allow a little safer ambulatory movement of our youngsters.
Yeah, as mentioned, that area is already, we have a safe route school plan there. So yeah, interesting. Yeah, and it's always hard. I will tell you, as someone who manages our transportation department of the school district, people that have a lot of concerns and frustrations and ideas for solutions about how to manage traffic. MES is bad. IES is really bad. And, you know, these solutions are difficult to implement when the problem lasts for 15 minutes at the max, 5 days a week, and 178 days a year. So people are saying, well, you need these and these, and you need, and, you know, and what that would do to impede traffic the rest of the days and times. So it's always a challenge for schools trying to manage that. Yep. Rebecca.
Just really quick, to encourage parents when they are dropping off their kid, don't worry about being in a hurry. Did you know you could finish your entire cup of coffee in the drop-off line? You could probably finish a whole meal. And how off that, and that's so, I'm never in a hurry. It's been amazing. So I don't even have to I can bring my regular cup. I don't even need a thermos. It's gone by the time I leave. So please take your time. And
Yeah.
then the only thing, and the other thing that's happening on October 6th is Central High School's homecoming. So I still have a high schooler. It's still a fun deal for her. So we have a wedding and homecoming on October 6th. So that's always fun.
All right. And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oh, yes. And I don't see Counselor Belt holding us up here any longer. We are adjourned.